Hi there, my name's Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today we are here for one of my favorite videos of the month, and that is the Book of the Month prediction video. We're going to be predicting the books for the February 2024 Book of the Month box, and let me tell you, there are so many great books releasing in February. I don't even know how the book clubs are gonna pick this month. As always, we're gonna start it out with the historical fiction genre. I have a handful of great selections for this one this month. My first choice is The Turtle House by Amanda Churchill. This currently has a 4.50 and 34 ratings on Goodreads so far. Spring 1999. 25-year-old Leah Cope and her prickly 73-year-old grandmother Mineko are sharing a bedroom in Curtin, Texas. Both women are at a turning point. Mineko, long widowed, moved in with her son and daughter-in-law after a suspicious fire burned down the family ranch. While Leah, an architect with a promising career in Austin, returned to the family home unexpectedly under conditions that she would not explain. The two grow close as Mineko shares her stories of early life in Japan, the war that changed everything, and her two great loves, a man named Akio Sato and a Japanese estate called The Turtle House. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because it is a debut historical fiction novel, and it covers multiple generations of a family growing together over stories of the family's history. I also love that there is a long lost estate and a long lost love, and the idea of immigration and all that. I think this book fits a lot of things that Book of the Month has featured previously. Then I have The Foxwife by Yangzse Choo. This currently has a 4.31 and 245 ratings on Goodreads so far. Manchuria, 1908. A young woman is found frozen to death in the snow, and her death is clouded by the rumors of fox gods that lure people by transforming into beautiful men and women. Bao, a detective with a good reputation, is hired to uncover the woman's identity. Meanwhile, a family that owns a Chinese medicine shop is haunted by a curse that causes the eldest son of the family to die before their 24th birthday. When a mysterious woman enters the shop, it seems like their luck might finally change. I selected this book because Yangzse Choo had been previously featured by Book of the Month to pretty good reception. This book sounds really interesting, and I love that this has some mythology elements mixed in and that it has that historical context. I think these are all things that Book of the Month loves to feature. Then we have The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Katherine Arden. January 1918. Laura Ivan is a battlefield nurse until she is wounded and discharged, leaving behind a brother who is still fighting in Flanders. She returns home to receive news of Freddie's death. Determined to find out the truth, she returns to Belgium as a volunteer, where she hears rumors of haunted trenches and a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers oblivion. November 1917. Freddie Ivan awakens after an explosion to find himself trapped in a pillbox with a wounded German soldier. Against all odds, the two men form an alliance and manage to claw their way out. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because Kristina Arden is a relatively popular author. She had a very well-loved series called The Bear and the Nightingale. This is a new book for her, and I love that it is kind of a mix of historical fiction and that fantasy magical realism element. I could see this being a really popular pick for Book of the Month. And my final selection for the historical fiction genre should come as a surprise to no one, and that's The Women by Kristin Hannah. This currently has a 4.68 and about 2,516 reviews on Goodreads so far. 23-year-old nursing student Frankie McGrath volunteers to join the Army Nursing Corps after her older brother ships off to Vietnam. Raised in idyllic Southern California and sheltered by conservative parents, Frankie is soon overwhelmed by the chaos of war. But war is just the beginning for Frankie and her veteran friends. The real battle lies in coming home. So I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Kristin Hannah would be a repeat author, and she is wildly popular. Every time that they've selected her, her books sell extraordinarily well. She is just so loved in historical fiction writing, and I feel like if this isn't a main pick, it has to at least be an add-on. I don't really foresee a way that this doesn't make it into Book of the Month somehow this month. Next up are my selections for the horror, thriller, and mystery genres. First up, we have Island Witch by Amanda Jayatissa. This currently has a 4.50 and 32 ratings on Goodreads so far. Being the daughter of the village demon priest, Maura is used to mostly keeping to herself. But now, influenced by the colonizers, the villagers have turned against her father's craft. Then something starts viciously attacking the men of the village in the jungle, and the villagers blame her father. As she tries to clear her father's name, Maura is haunted by dreams that predict darker forces on the island. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because Jayatissa would be a repeat author, and I think that most of her books have received pretty good reception. I love that she writes thrillers, but she always incorporates elements of Sri Lankan culture, whether it's the book being set in Sri Lanka or in this case, incorporating a little bit of Sri Lankan mythology. I am really looking forward to this one, and I think it would make a great pick. Then we have The Fortune Teller by Rachel Kapelke Dale. This currently has a 3.76 and 146 ratings on Goodreads so far. Middle-class Rosie has worked for years to fit in with her friends on the Yale equestrian team. When she comes home from a year studying abroad, she finds a new, mysterious member of the team named Annalise Tadinger. She's a talented tarot reader and a brilliant writer, but when a friend notices money going missing from her bank account, the entire group turns on each other. After graduation, Rosie begins a job at a hedge fund, where she begins to uncover Annalise's true identity, and learns her spot at Yale was no accident. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because this is giving me a little bit of dark academia vibes, and those always do really well with Book of the Month. We have, you know, an elite equestrian team over at Yale, and then we have like a big financial institute like a hedge fund, and this mysterious woman who shows up and turns everything upside down. It sounds like a really good read to me, and I could see this being a successful feature for Book of the Month. And my third selection is Everyone Who Can Forgive Me Is Dead by Jenny Hollander. This currently has a 3.87 and 432 reviews on Goodreads so far. 9 years ago, Charlie Colbert fled a crime scene with the world's eyes on her. She was a witness to the nightmarish events at her elite graduate school on Christmas Eve, events dubbed by the public as Scarlet Christmas. Since then, Charlie has rebuilt her life, but when a buzzy film made by a former classmate threatens to shatter everything that Charlie's worked for, she realizes how much she's changed in 9 years. So I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut horror novel. This sounds like it's kind of right up the Book of the Month alley. We have this horrible murder that takes place at a school, someone who is fleeing the memories of it and rebuilding their life, and yet they can't quite escape their past. I think this is right in line with a lot of the types of thrillers and horror that Book of the Month picks up. Next up, we have the romance genre, and as I mention every month, romance is really not the genre that I read, so these are just my best guesses. There might be other books that are more likely. Some of these are by authors that Book of the Month has previously featured. Other ones are books that just sound interesting to me. So hopefully one of these hits right. First up, we have A Love Song for Ricki Wilde by Tia Williams. This currently has a 4.30 and 271 ratings on Goodreads so far. Leap years are a strange, enchanted time. And for some, even a single February can be life-changing. Ricki Wilde is the opposite of her famous socialite sisters. In her bones, Ricki knows that somewhere a more exciting life awaits her. When regal nonagenarian Ms. Della invites her to rent the bottom floor of her Harlem brownstone, Ricki jumps at the chance of a fresh start. One evening in February, Ricki encounters a handsome, deeply mysterious stranger who knocks her entire world off balance. So I selected this book because Williams would be a repeat author. She was previously featured for her book 7 Days in June, which was wildly popular, and I could see this one being equally as popular. I actually read 7 Days in June, one of the few romance reads that I have read, and I really enjoyed that book. I think Williams' writing is really strong and that she likes to explore complex topics and really well fleshed out characters. So I could easily see this being a selection for Book of the Month. Then we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Misery Lark, the only daughter of the vampire councilman of the Southwest, is an outcast again. She has been called upon to ensure a historic peacekeeping alliance between the vampires and the Wares. So she surrenders herself in exchange. Again, Wares are ruthless and unpredictable, and their alpha, Lo Moreland, is no exception. It's clear that with the way he tracks Misery's every single movement, he doesn't trust her. If only he knew how right he was. So I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Ali Hazelwood seems to be featured by them for pretty much everything that she does. I would say that it probably isn't going to be a main selection, but I would be just shocked if this isn't an add-on option. I think her last couple of books have been added as add-ons, and so I would expect this one to be as well. I also like that in this case, this is a bit different than some of her previous novels. She does a lot of like science and academic-based romances, so it's kind of fun seeing her play with like vampires and werewolves and a little bit more paranormal romance. Then we have Girls with Bad Reputations by Gio Axelrod. This currently has a 4.62 and 34 ratings on Goodreads so far. All her life, Kayla was told not to take up so much space. But now she's the beating heart of a rock band and the whole world knows her name. She's determined to make her own way and keep her past and present separate. Desperate to escape the worry churning deep inside of her, she finds solace in her quiet bus driver, Ty Baldwin. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is the second book in the Lily series. And book number 1, The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes, was previously featured. I often notice that Book of the Month likes to feature like all the books in a series. So if they've previously featured the first book in the series, I think it's a safe bet that they're at least going to add the second book as an add-on. And my last selection for the romance genre is The Partner Plot by Kristina Forrest. This currently has a 3.98 and 81 reviews on Goodreads so far. To Violet Green, fashion is everything. She is a successful celebrity stylist who travels all over the world living out her dreams. After a very public breakup, she is focused on nothing but her career. Xavier Wright did not expect to run into his high school girlfriend Violet, the girl who he thought he'd once marry, on a trip to Las Vegas. Once the shock wears off, the two of them decide to celebrate together. That is, until they wake up the next morning next to each other with rings on their fingers. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because I feel like this book has the same kind of vibes that Book of the Month likes to feature. The cover of this fits the aesthetic. It's just really cute, and I think it would, fit with the things that they've previously done. I also would love to see Book of the Month feature newer or different romance authors because I feel like they do tend to focus on the same old authors over and over again, especially in this genre. Next up, we're going to be jumping into the literary and contemporary fiction genre. And I was really surprised this month there wasn't that many selections in this particular area. The first selection is going to be Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. This currently has a 4.19 and 147 ratings on Goodreads so far. Colorado, 1864. Star, a young survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre, is brought to the Fort Marion prison castle, where he's forced to learn English and practice Christianity. A generation later, Star's son Charles is sent to the same school where he is brutalized by the same man who tortured his father. Under the harsh treatment, he clings to the moments that he shares with his friend Opal Viola. Oakland, 2018. Opal Viola Victoria Bearshield is barely holding her family together after a shooting that nearly took the life of her nephew. After recovery, Orville becomes obsessed with footage of the shooting, and his younger brother Lonnie suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder from the carnage that he witnessed. Opal is equally adrift, experimenting with peyote and ceremony, searching for a way to heal her wounded family. I've selected this book because Tommy Orange is a pretty well-known and respected author. His first book, There, received extraordinary critical acclaim, and he was awarded all sorts of literary awards. This is his new release, and it is receiving very good feedback already. I've been seeing really positive buzz around this everywhere, and although he hasn't been previously featured by Book of the Month and he's not a debut author, I still wouldn't be surprised to see Book of the Month pick it up. I think this would be a fantastic pick for them, in fact. Then we have Acts of Forgiveness by Maura Cheeks. This currently has a 4.28 and 32 ratings on Goodreads so far. Americans are waiting with bated breath to see if the country's first female president will pass the Forgiveness Act. The bill would allow Black families up to $175,000 if they can prove that they are descendants of slaves. Ambitious single mother Willie Revel sees this as an opportunity to right her world. She had given up on her promising journalism career to come home to Philadelphia to run her father's struggling construction company. Her choice to put her family first has her and her daughter living with her parents and trying to keep themselves out of bankruptcy. Could the Forgiveness Act help her family connect with their long-lost family roots while helping save their beloved home? I selected this book because it's a debut novel, and I feel like there is a lot of great thematic exploration within this book. We have reparations, we have a family that's struggling to survive, we have long lost family roots, we have a single mother. There's just a lot going on, and Book of the Month seems to occasionally like to pick up those really meaty novels that delve deep into a lot of different topics. I could see this being a very poignant and thoughtful pick for Book of the Month. Next up, we're going to go into sci-fi, fantasy, and mythology, and we have quite a few selections for this category this month. First up is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsah Faisal. This currently has a 4.31 and 289 ratings on Goodreads so far. On the streets of White Roaring, Arthi Casimir is a criminal mastermind and a collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea house at nighttime converts to an illegal blood house for vampires. I selected this book for Book of the Month because Faisal has been previously featured for her book We Hunt the Flames, which was the start of a very successful fantasy duology. I really enjoy Faisal's writing, and so does it seem a lot of Book of the Month fans, and I think that this would be a very successful selection for a Book of the Month box. My second selection is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This currently has a 4.10 and 583 reviews on Goodreads so far. Cassie Andrews works in a New York City bookstore. That is until the day that her favorite customer dies right before her eyes. The only thing that she has to remember him by is the last book that he was reading. But this is no ordinary book. This is the book of doors. It promises that any door is every door. You just need to know how to open them. I selected this book because this is a debut fantasy novel that is already receiving comparisons to The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. That was wildly popular, so if this is indeed in a similar vein, I could see this one being wildly popular as well. Then I have The Book of Love by Kelly Link. This currently has a 3.65 and 121 ratings on Goodreads so far. Late one night, Laura, Daniel, and Mo find themselves underneath the fluorescent lights of a high school classroom a year after disappearing. They have been long presumed dead, which in fact they are. With them in the room is their high school musical teacher, who seems to know something about their disappearance and what has brought them back. Desperate to reclaim their lives, they strike a deal with their music teacher to do a series of magical tasks. I selected this book for Book of the Month because this is also a debut fantasy novel, and there's been a lot of buzz around this book. I have seen this on pretty much every published list for books coming out in 2024. I feel like this is one of those books that's being pretty heavily pushed, and those often tend to end up as Book of the Month features. Then we have Medea by Eilish Quin. This currently has a 4.30 and 69 ratings on Goodreads so far. The daughter of a sea nymph and the granddaughter of a titan, Medea is a paradox. She's compelling by virtue of her divinity, but powerless due to being a woman. As Medea becomes a woman and a witch, she faces the arrival of the hero Jason, who is preordained by the gods to be her husband and to take her away from her isolated existence. I selected this book for Book of the Month because it is also a debut novel, and we know that Book of the Month loves to feature mythological retellings. I think Medea is a super interesting character, one that we haven't seen explored yet in any type of retelling, so I think that this could be a really good pick for Book of the Month. And finally, our last genre of the month, nonfiction / memoir. I have one selection, and that's My Side of the River by Elizabeth Camarillo Gutierrez. This currently has a 4.44 and 108 ratings on Goodreads so far. Born to Mexican immigrants just south of Tucson, Arizona, Elizabeth has the world at her fingertips as she enters freshman year ranked the #1 student. But then her parents' visas expire and they're forced to return to Mexico, leaving Elizabeth responsible for her younger brother as well as for her education. She is determined to break the cycle of being a statistic, and she knows that there is no way that she can let go of the opportunities that the US can provide for her. I selected this book because this is a debut memoir, and it's already being compared to Educated by Tara Westover. It also kind of gives me similar vibes to How to Say Babylon by Sophia Sinclair. Both of those are wildly popular books and really poignant memoirs that really make you look at the value of education on a person's life. I think that this book is set up to do the same thing, and I think that this could be a really poignant selection for Book of the Month. I would honestly love to see them pick this up. So that's the end of my February 2024 Book of the Month predictions. I know it was a ton of books. This list was crazy this month. When I was sitting there trying to split up the books for Book of the Month and the books for aardvark, the list just kept getting longer and longer on each side. So great month for book clubs in general. Let me know how you feel in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. Tell me all about the picks here. Did you like what I picked out? Are there any that you feel are for sure Book of the Month picks? Any that you think, nah, that's too much of a long shot? Are there any books that you're surprised I didn't put on my list? Anything that you think you're gonna add to your TBR, just tell me everything. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell, so that we never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.